All right, so debated on how to handle this because I am actually in the town of Andover right now. I've already taken a 0 day. I'm ready to get back on the trail tomorrow morning. But I haven't videoed anything. There are a couple days of trail time that I missed because after my day hiking and where I met the Outward Bound people and spent all that time talking with them, and then hiked into the shelter and stayed in that big shelter all by myself that night. I had my phone said 52% charge, and my battery had one light on it, my backup battery, which meant that I should have one full charge to add to my phone when I need it. So I handled it the same way I always do, put them in a plastic bag with a little moisture thing and stuck it in my sleeping bag. And so it wouldn't get too cold and I wouldn't lose all the charge, right? I mean, I'm doing the same thing every night. Works great. But I woke up in the morning, the phone was 100% dead, and the battery, I plugged it in, it gave me 2% charge, just enough to turn it on and see what time it was. And then the phone died. So I didn't record anything on the trail for 2 days. So I just want to tell you about those 2 days. And if I can find some pictures or something, I might stick those into this conversation when I edit this up and show you what was going on. So to start with, the night that I met the Outward Bound hikers, that day that I met them, when I got into the shelter that night, I had everything all done. I'd eaten. I was ready to call it a night. And here come the Outward Bound hikers again, right? So they all showed up at the shelter, that big shelter that I was at all by myself. They all showed up. It was pretty cold, so I was all in my sleeping bag, bundled up, even though it was early. It was like 6:30 or something. But I was just hanging out, looking at my guide and just different things. And my phone, because my phone hadn't died yet. And so, anyway, I told them, come on. And so they sat down and we talked for a long time. Here comes my background noise again. So anyway, we talked for a long time that night, really. Probably maybe 45 minutes or an hour. They just had lots more questions about hiking and my experiences and, how hard it was. Anyway, I just told them a bunch of stories. They told me some stories about their deal, and it just was really cool, and it was really fun and neat. And then not a one of them stayed in that big, huge shelter. They all tented. That's what they were supposed to do. They had their whole plan. They had tarps. They knew how to set everything up, and they were supposed to practice it. And so anyway, they all went back behind the shelter and tented that night. And I just went to sleep in that huge shelter by myself. And then in the morning, I just said bye and took off. So it was cool. But I talked to them briefly that next morning, a couple of them, about Mahoosuc Notch. They were going to do Mahoosuc Notch, which is, I'm sure it was a blast for them. And I'm sure it took them forever, that whole huge group, to get through Mahoosuc Notch. But anyway, so they, so I did that. Now, Mahoosuc Notch. I'm going to try my best to put a couple of pictures in here, but I might not be able to put anything. Just picture this. Bus-size boulders just chucked into a mile-long, crevice. And, it's just down in the valley. It's the notch, right? Mahoosuc Notch. It's down the gap between two mountains. And these boulders, I mean, they're anywhere from bus-size to just regular boulders, right? They're all different stuff. Some of them are so big that they create little cave areas that you have to crawl under. The way they have it all set up, the trail set up, you have to, you just put your trekking poles away. I mean, I put them away before I even got to the notch. I just stuck them, put everything in my pack, made my pack as small as possible. There are several places where you have to take your pack off and kind of push it through in front of you. Some places you're jumping from boulder to boulder over these huge areas that I'm sure freaked some people out big time. it's like a parkour course, if you know what that is. It was fun. I had so much fun with it. In a way, I was almost, disappointed when it was over. I was kind of wishing it was longer, but I mean, it did take forever, and I needed to get on and get some miles in. So anyway, it was really awesome. Mahoosic Notch has my thumbs up, I would love to go back and play around there someday. So that was cool. So then what happened? The rest of the day, I just hiked. And I felt so good. I felt good because all those discussions with the Outward Bound folks had just picked me up the day before and that day. And I just had a bit of a new perspective, kind of just really just appreciating everything out there. And just loving it and going a little slower, just enjoying. So anyway, in the meantime, I keep trying to call, I think I've mentioned it already, I keep trying to call Human Nature Hostile, right? This guy, and this is kind of could be a long, convoluted story, but I'm going to try to make it really short. So a few weeks ago, I talked to the guy. He says 100% he's opening this season, he's going to be running his hostel. I say, okay, great, I have a box to send to you. Here's when I'll be there. Should I send the box? Where should I send the box to? He gives me an address, I send it. So I'm still now, this day after I finish Mahoosic Notch, I'm still trying to get a hold of him, right? I haven't been able to get a hold of him. He hasn't answered his phone. Well, now my phone's dead, right? I have no phone and no battery. So I run across these three people that I had met earlier, like months, weeks ago, and on the trail. They let me use their phone. I try to call him, he doesn't answer, right? A couple other people I find, they let me call, he doesn't answer. So effectively, he's just off the grid. I don't know. He's not doing anything. He's not a part of anything. So I just had to ditch that and decide that I'm not going to stay there. And he's got my box, and I guess I'll never get my stuff back, So whatever. So I just go through the rest of the day with these three hikers that I had come across, the first ones that let me use their phone. And it was such a fun day. Like, we don't even know each other at all. We really have talked none. None of us know each other much. But I just tore through. We just ran down the mountains and ran up the mountains. And we went so fast, and I got done so early that day because I couldn't do more miles because I had to come into this town to resupply and take my zero and everything. So, but I just had a blast. It was just so much fun to do that. I probably was working a little harder than I should have because my right Achilles and calf are really, really sore. I strained something a little bit, but I'll get past it. So that was that day. And then I ended up that day staying at Fry Notch Lean-To. They call them lean-tos out here instead of shelters, but it's just a shelter. So I ended up staying at Fry Notch Lean-To, and that was really that day. It was a fantastic day. The weather was cool. It did rain just a little. You wouldn't even really call it rain. It would just spit a little here and there, just enough for me to kind of be a little concerned that, it might get everything slippery, especially going through Mahoosic Notch. I hear that's, I can tell you that would have been way tougher if it was soaking wet. So anyway, I went through there, and it all stayed dry enough, and it was just a perfect day. So that was that day, and then I crashed that night at the lean-to. There were a couple other guys there. They were real nice. We didn't talk a whole lot. Just got everything, kind of ate, got everything organized, and just went to sleep. And it was a good night. And then my next day was the day before I came here into Andover. So I'll tell you about that here in a little bit. All right. So the next day I woke up really early at the Fry Notch Lean-To, really early, and I was really just ready to head out. I had been already, my 0 day had been delayed one day, and I was just ready to get there, and it was a gorgeous day. It had rained all night long. It was just sprinkling a little bit, so I knew it was going to be a wet day. I was a little concerned about the cold, but it turned out being a beautiful day. Even though I was wet all day, it was nice. I was warm. It was fine. So it was really perfect hiking weather. So yeah, I headed up. I got up. I still didn't know where I was going to stay that night. I knew I was coming into town, but I didn't know how I was going to get here. I didn't know how I was going to stay. and I had no phone and battery, right? So I ran across, so here's what happened. So I'm hiking along, having a great day, and just enjoying it, just knowing it's gonna work out somehow. And I get close to a shelter, the Hall Mountain lean-to. And I'm thinking, should I stop here for lunch? Should I not? Well, I get within, a few hundred yards of the shelter, and I mean, the sky just opened up and it started pouring. And I mean, pouring. So I was like, okay, I think I'll stop at the shelter. Well, I stopped, I had lunch, and before I was done having my lunch, these 3 hikers popped in, and they were so awesome. We were all just talking about stuff and sharing our stories, and once they kind of found out what my plight was at the moment, well, one of them had a big battery, and so he let me use it to charge my phone a few percent, and they had a couple of snacks and things that they gave me. They just shared, it's not like I needed them, but they just shared them, and that was really nice. And it was just very generous, and it was right at the right time, and of course it gave me a phone, to use. So I think I had like 12% charge. So when I got up to the top of the next mountain, I called into one of the other hostels here, Pinellas, which is the one I'm staying at, and that's where I'm at right now. And they said, yeah, they had a bunk available, so come on in. Where do I want them to pick me up and when? And they showed up and got me. And so yeah, I hiked in that day, did another 15 miles, and then when I finally got in, I just stayed there. So it was a really uneventful day, but really fun, and I really, really enjoyed it. So that's pretty much it, and then I've had this 0 day, and I'm ready to head out in the morning. So I just left that little gas station behind me. It looks like not much, but it's called Mills Market. And if you go in there, they've got a whole restaurant in the back with a whole menu, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I just had an incredible burger and some sweet potato fries and strawberry shortcake. And it was awesome. Oh my gosh. And then I got all my resupply groceries. Well, a whole bunch of those groceries, a whole bunch of resupply stuff I can get from the hostel for a lot cheaper. But I got a whole bunch of stuff I couldn't get there. And one of the things I couldn't find was wipes, because that's like the only way to really, anyway, it's an easy way to keep clean on the trail. So she swore they had wipes, but she couldn't find them anywhere. Then she goes, hey, I solved your problem. Just a second. She ran back in the back and came back about 2 minutes later. And she said that she had some in her car from a backpacking kit that she had bought. And she said, oh, I'll just find them somewhere. I'll find some more later. And she just gave them to me and wouldn't charge me for them or anything. So, I love these little towns.